Hi everyone, so today we're going to use the online version of Scratch to create an animated winter scene. So first of all, if you've not already got it bookmarked, search for Scratch on a search engine and then click Scratch, and we're going to go to Create. So we've got the tutorials part here that we're not going to need, so we can close that, go over to Sprite 1 and close that. Wait a second till people catch up with that. You might just pause the video, go and do those so that you're ready to go. Okay, so next part we're going to go into this part where it says stage. We're going to go down to the bottom to choose a backdrop, and we're going to go to paint. And then we're going to create our backdrop. So we're going to begin with changing the fill colour. So I'm going to take that saturation right up to 100. I've already got that on blue. We're going to take the brightness down to get a very dark blue, and you can see that there. And then I'm going to use a rectangle, and I'm going to go over the entire area, not just this visible area inside. So next we're going to go to our paintbrush. We're going to go back to the fill. We're going to put the brightness back up to 100 there. Okay, and I'm going to go down to yellow. So we just tweak around a little bit until we get the sort of colour that we want. So I'm going to take this down to a 5, press enter, and then just carefully we're just going to place some stars up in the sky there. Just be really careful when you're clicking, because it's easy to to move when you're clicking, and that's not going to be good enough, so undo if that happens. So just paint a few there, and then we're just going to take the size up a little bit. Let's go say to a 7, press enter, so we just get one or two slightly different ones. Okay, and then we might go to a 9 again, just for one or two. And then I'm going to take the saturation not all the way to the bottom, just maybe slightly up there, and then we can do a few more. Even though we've got some snow at the bottom, still do some towards the bottom, because it's difficult to judge exactly where that bottom part is going to be. And then let's just drop some of these sizes down a little bit, so that we've just got a scattering of them there. Now let's go back to our code, and we've got all of this area. So now we're going to go into the main sprite tray, and we're going to go to paint, and now we're going to paint that snow on the bottom. So again, with our fill, we want that as our white, so drop the saturation down and the brightness up, and with our paintbrush we're going to use a size 100. So we're going to have to go slightly outside of this box, so start over at the side there and just paint over, and then you can see here, look, that it's not quite enough there, so we're going to go a little bit underneath and just build this up slightly. Now the thing with this is just to give quite a smooth little surface there. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So you can see now that we've got stars going all the way down rather than a big gap. And let's go back down to code. So this sprite we're going to call ground. And now we're going to paint another sprite. So again, we're going to choose a sprite and we go to paint. So on this one, I'm going to drop all of this down to a size 8. We should still have our pure white colour from before. And down here, I'm just going to zoom in so that we can see exactly where that dot is showing our centre point. Look, and that's where we want to just paint one size 8 dot for our sprite. So our sprite 1 is going to be a snowdrop, I suppose it is, and then we're just going to put our program together. So over here then we're going to go to events, and when the flag is clicked, Now initially I want to hide this because we don't know whereabouts it's going to be, and we don't want snow just appearing halfway up the sky. So I'm going to go into Looks, and we go to Hide. Then we are going to go to Control, yeah, and we're going to go down here to Create Clone of Myself. So what that does, it creates a copy of Sprite 1. Because of that then, we want create a clone, sorry, not create a clone of myself, when I start as a clone. Okay. Might be a good idea just to pause and make sure that you're up to date with everything on here at this point before we start going into the main programs. So from there then, what we're going to do with this is we are going to have a slight random delay, because otherwise we just end up with a line of snowflakes all coming down together there. So what we're going to do is put in a wait command there. We're going to go to the operators, and we're going to pick a random 1, 2, 4. So it just delays some of these by anything from 1 to 4 seconds. Once we've done that delay, we're going to go now to Looks, and we are going to show that sprite. So now we need it to always be up at the top. And so the Y coordinate for that is 179. I'm going to go to Motion, and we want to have the Go To, and the Y is going to be 179. We don't want the X coordinate to be the same though, otherwise we would just end up with multiple snowflakes all coming down in exactly the same place. So we're going to go back to the operators, we're going to go to pick random, and then because 0, 0 of the stage is there, we want minus and we want plus coordinates. So we're going to go from minus 240 to positive 240. Now I'm going to get that and drop it into the X coordinate, and then put that underneath show. We also, going back to Motion, need to use a pointing direction, click on the 90 and make that go downwards so that our snow always goes down. Next then, what we're going to do is get it to move, but we want it to stop moving when it hits the bottom here. Yeah, and that, what we actually do want it to do is go back to the top. So I'm going to build this in a couple of stages now. So we're going to get a repeat until. We're going to go into sensing. And then we're going to have touching. This is the reason that we did the snow separately as the ground. So we can sense when it's touching the ground and not when it's touching white stars or other bits of snow. So repeat until it's touching the ground, and we're just going to get it to move. So we'll say here, let's grab that move, and we want it to move just 5 steps. We might change that later, but 5 is a reasonable speed for us to see that things are working. So now we're going to put that onto there, and what I'm going to do now is get the Go To and remove it back to Control, and we are going to put a forever loop around everything there. Then we can join the program back together. You can do it without taking that off, it's a little bit easier to do it separate from the program. So let's just run that, and there we go, we've got our snowflake there, and it's just moving downwards as we work. So as I said before then, once we know that's working, we can drop this down. So I might just go to 3 steps, and let's give that another go. There we go, that's looking a little bit better. So we don't just want one snowflake falling down here, and this is where this comes in quite useful. So what we're going to do now is get a repeat and just put that around create clone of myself. So it's going to do 10 of those. So you can see that these start coming down. Okay, which is fine there. So now we're going to do these in a slightly different size. So I'm going to right click and duplicate sprite 1. So now we've got sprite 2. We're going to go up to costumes so we can see the size of our snowflake in there, which was a size 8. So I'm going to get the erase tool and rub that out, go back to our brush, and we'll just go a little bit smaller here. So we'll go with a size 6, put that over that center point, and come back out. Now our program's already there now, so with the number of steps I'm going to change that to 2, so they're just a little bit smaller, but everything else should work exactly the same. So now we're getting some smaller snowflakes further in the background, which are moving just a little bit slower there. And then let's do that one more time. So we're going to duplicate, I'm going to go into costumes, just going to zoom in a little bit on that center point. No, I've lost the center point, so we click equals and then zoom in so that we can see exactly what we've got there. So again, let's get the erase tool, rub that out, go back to here, and I'm just going to go to a size 4 with this one. So it's definitely still on sprite 3, and we'll just get this one to move at 1 step, so that we start getting all of that snow effect. Now, depending on your computer, and I'm not sure how much of an effect the type of computer that you have will have on this, I'm going to go back to sprite 1 and increase these, and it's just kind of trial and error. If you start getting sort of lag and juddering on there, then drop those numbers back down again. So let's have 20 of each and just see exactly what that looks like. And so once those have actually started reaching the ground, then we get quite a nice effect. So I'm going to stop at that point, and then I'll continue the video with some extension tasks if anyone wants to do that. Otherwise, you do have this one completed. If you've got your own Scratch account, then you can sign in and save this. If not, you can join and use your school email address. If you don't, and you don't want to join, then just go File, Save to your computer, and you can save this. And then next time you go into Scratch, you can always load it back up again so you don't lose your work. So for the second part of this video, this is an extension task, so you don't have to do this if you're working from home, but you know, it's quite nice just to add a few things to this scene. So I'm going to start off by clicking on the background, and I'm going to go to backdrops there. I'm going to get the paintbrush, and I'm going to take that to a size 100. Now on this one, I'm going to take the saturation back up to 100 for a minute, because I want to go to a nice bright yellow, and then I'm going to take that right down to probably around 10. And what we're going to do is just go up to here and just make sure that there's no kind of stars just poking out the side there. And we're just going to put the moon in. So we've just got our background there. Now we're going to do a little bit of scenery in the background. So we want another sprite, so we're going to go to choose sprite, and we're going to go to paint. I always prefer just to zoom in a little bit there. No, I've just clicked that wrong, so let's click the the line there. Now on the outline I'm going to drop that right down to a size 1, and we're going to do two things. We're going to start down here and I'm going to draw a rectangle which is going to be the trunk of a tree. So we just want to join that together. I've gone slightly out there, it doesn't matter, because we're not going to see that part anyway. Next then, have a look around our centre point and get roughly above that, and we're going to go diagonally and in, and then each time we just go a little bit further out. Again, don't worry about getting those lines exactly straight, it's not all that important. And don't worry too much about matching everything up on this side. So we're going for more like a cartoony look rather than an accurate look. So we're now going to go to the fill tool. Again, let's put that saturation back up and let's go into the greens. Then on the brightness, let's drop that right down so we get quite a dark green colour. Click in there and fill that. I'm going to go back into here, I'm going to put the brightness back up, and you want to look for like an orange colour, and then drop the brightness down to get that dark brown colour for our tree trunk. Over to the select tool, bring that up and put it just inside the tree there. Now if it's showing over the top of the tree, then you just use these, so you can bring that to the front, and then what we want to do is send it to the back. So we've got our tree, and then go back to code. So this is our first sprite. So what I'm going to do there is, let's put that around there, and let's take the size down. So we're going to go with a 50% on the size, and then I'm going to put these just on the hillside there. So let's duplicate again, and the same. Now we could drop that size down a little bit more and just place it there so it's looking as though it's much further away. And let's duplicate that again and do pretty much the same. I'm going to take one of these larger ones and duplicate that, and let's just put that over here, and we might just go in between on that one. What you can then do with each of these, if we go back to Leaf Sprite 4 there, Leaf Sprite 7, but the ones in the distance, I'm going to go to events, and when flags clicked, going to go into looks, and we're going to get set color effect, and we're going to change the color to ghost, and then we're just going to drop that down. Let's try 50%, and what you see then is it sort of fades those into the background so that they do look like they're further away. So I'm going to drag that onto Sprite 6 so that Sprite 6 gets the same program, and we can then go with those. If you want to do it with the other trees, then that's fine. It just depends exactly what sort of effect you want on each of them. So let's do that and run. So we've got our trees just in the background there. So the next thing then is I'm just going to bring in an animation. Now this last one, it's a little bit fiddly to get the effect, but it's not difficult. So I'm going to go down here and choose a sprite, and we pick the magnifying glass to choose a sprite. I'm going to go into animals, and I want this one here, like the bear walking. So let's just move that to where we can see it, and we're just going to get our animation program done first. So let's start with events. When the flag is clicked, we want on control, and we want a forever loop, and then we're going to go into looks, and next costume. Going back into control, we're going to put a delay there, and I'm going to put that delay at, say, 3 seconds. Let's just give that a try. No, sorry, not 0.3 seconds. Just so that we're getting that walk cycle, and it's reasonably smooth there. So the next thing I'm going to do is change the size of the bear. So let's try 50% to begin with. I think that's probably okay. And what I'm then going to do is try and move the bear as far off the screen as I can. So you just got to keep doing it with little clicks. So we're almost right on the nose there. And I think that's possibly as far as we're going to get. And I can then read these coordinates. So we're now going to go back to events, and when the flag is clicked, into motion, and we're then going to use the go to. So we've got that -282, which we got by moving the bear off the side of the screen there. What we're going to do with this then is get the bear to walk across the screen. When it walks off that side of the screen, then it appears back over here, because we don't want it just getting stuck sort of at the end or anything there. So we're going to go to control, and we're going to use an if then else statement. So the if, we want it walking all the time until it reaches this far end. So we're going to go to the operators, and we want the less than operator. Then we're going to go into motion, and we're going to scroll until we find X position and put that in there. So we're saying that if the X position is less than, and we want to be right on this far edge here, so we've got -282 there, we're going to have to take it off a little bit earlier at the other end. So if it's less than 280, and then we can take hold of that and drop it into our if then else statement. So if the X position is less than 280, that means it's somewhere to the left of there. Let's go to our motion, and we want it to move just one step. Again, sometimes you've got to just play around with these to see that the movement kind of matches the movement of the legs, the animation. So we will try with that. If it's not less than -280 on the X coordinate, then we're just going to send it back to where it came from. So we right click, duplicate that, and put it in at the bottom. And then we don't just want it to do this once, we want to keep doing that. So let's go into control, let's take a forever loop and put that around our if then else statement, and then drop that up at the top there, and let's give that a go. So now we've got our bear just walking through the snow. And if you're happy with that, leave it at that stage. For me though, having a brown bear walking through the snow doesn't really go with our winter scene, so we're going to change that to be a polar bear. Now this is the bit I said it's not difficult, it's just fiddly. So I'm going to go to costumes, and you can see that there are 8 costumes for the bear. So I'm going to go to the top there, I'm going to pick up the fill tool, and we're going to change the colour. Now the problem is, if we create a perfectly white polar bear walking on a white background, we're not going to see it all that much. So let's take the brightness up to there. We're going to move this into the yellow, and then I'm going to go way down so that it's not actually a white bear, it's a very light yellow colour. So let's try that saturation. I'm going to go with about 9. We've got our fill tool, and all to do now is as you hover over bits, it will show you the different colours. You just got to be very careful not to catch the lines. So this is the part where, as I said, it's not difficult, it's just a little bit fiddly. So we've got our first polar bear there. Now we can see that it's visible on the snow. If it's not, you need to change your fill colour and do it again and get this first one right before you move on to the others. And then we just do exactly the same again for all of these. And just keep clicking through them. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll pause my recording and I'll finish that off and come back in a second. Okay, so once we've got all of the costumes coloured in like that, we can go back to code and then let's try out our final animation. Now, if you did want something else with this, like maybe you want a greeting message to pop up at the end, then what you could do is change this part so that you use a repeat until. So you would use a repeat until the exposition is greater than 280 or maybe 279, and then after that repeat until you could then broadcast. So if we just go to the events, you could broadcast, you leave it as message 1 and then you create a new sprite with your message on it. Okay, and then on that one you would then say when I receive message 1. Which would be just there, look, yeah, and that would then give you any kind of greeting that you wanted at the end. You could as well, if you wanted, get that full screen, get that playing, and get, if you've got some screen capture software, then capture that, and then you've actually got your animation as a video that you could send to someone if you wanted to do.